अबे आयशा को एसएससी में 78 आया 76 मुझे कितना आएंगे कौन बोला तो उसको एसएससी में 76 आया इसको त्रिशा को कौन बोला नहीं हुई भाई इसको मैट्रिक का 59.5 आया उसको उसका पेपर मैंने चेक किया 59.5 देखेंगे सब लोग बोले पास है ना 90% देख मेरे को मैथ्स में आया था मेरा लोएस्ट नहीं बता हिंदी का बताओ ना ए पागल भाई आज सुबह कितना हाँ इसमें 100 है वो आसपास अच्छा वो भाई ग्लव्स पहनती हूं ये पार्टी क्या आना बैठ आगे क्या तमिश्रा मैंने क्या वही लगाया रे भगवान कसम नहीं लगाया वो मैं लगाया मारो पड़े मैंने लगाया उधर मैं हाथ भी लगाया नहीं लगाया भाई बोलना भाई हम तो
Good evening. Idhar aa. What was the last topic? I think heredity we started, no? Definitions we had done. Definitions we had done. Okay. So now, the last class we had just started with the concept of heredity and genetics. Are those terms clear to you? See that the terms that we had discussed the other day should be clear to you, because today we are going to discuss about the laws. To understand that the laws would be very simple once you know. Hairstyle अच्छा है पर
नहीं अच्छा वही तो
अच्छा नहीं है. अभी इतना थोड़ा सा रखा कि उसको भी शेप कर देते ना.
क्लास टीचर ने भी वही बोला.
That is बालों के पीछे टाइम नहीं जाता बोर्ड एग्जाम्स तक.
अभी भी नहीं आ रहा.
पर ही इधर आ जा. नहीं वो मुझे थोड़ा अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है. इधर वो बैग बीच में. Moving that side is not very safe. Better you move that side. This side. This is safer and standard also. Don't be scared. I'll not allow you to cross the limit. Now, when we are talking about heredity, what was the concept of dominant allele? I explained. What is a dominant allele?
It expresses both homozygous and
Heterozygous condition. What is an allele? Wait. Each one of you have to open your mouth. What is an allele? Alternative form of a gene. How many alleles for a gene can be there in a pair of chromosomes? How many alleles for a gene? A gene may have 50 alleles also. I told you all these things, see that you understand. How many alleles for a gene can be there in a pair of chromosomes? 2. Not more than 2. What is a character? What is a character? शुभम आया था समझ में पिछले बार what I explained you. आया था. What is a character? What is a character?
Like for example, skin color, hair
हाँ.
color. This is like we can physically see observe.
I gave you a standard definition also. What is a character? Character can be defined as form
Or function.
or behavior of an organism. See that you understand the terms. Character meaning form, function, behavior of an organism. Now, then what are the variable forms of a character known as? Traits. Give me one example of a character now that you know the 7 pairs of contrasting traits for Mendel, the pea plant. Give me one example of a character and its traits. Give me one example from the list that already we had done the last class. Give me one example. See there, what are the 7 pairs of characters we had studied, 7 pairs of traits we had studied?
Shape of seed,
So now give me one example of a character and its traits.
shape of seed,
Shape of seed, round and wrinkled. Height of the plant, tall and dwarf. And one more, color of the flower, purple and violet, purple and white. So this way you'll have to remember some basic concepts. Now, if you remember the other day already I had introduced this. The other day already I told you that as we start understanding the laws of inheritance, see that you make an effort to understand. Otherwise, this is a topic students always find it difficult, whereas there's nothing to be blank about it. Try understanding. I have already explained you all the terms. Now try applying those terms and understand. Laws of inheritance, the first thing is the 7 pairs of traits, characters you should be more or less clear with. And now that we start with the law of dominance. What is meant by dominance? The meaning of dominance you already know. Dominance here means what? One particular type of a trait is expressing in the presence of another. One type of a trait is expressing, two types of traits are there. One type of trait is expressing, the other is not expressing. If that's the situation, this is what is known as dominance. So simple concept. What is dominance? Now, if you remember the other day, we were talking about one particular example. I said, what did Mendel try? What was his basic experiment? His basic experiment was he selected tall plants. He bred them with dwarf. What did he observe in the first generation? All plants tall. He selected purple flowered plants, crossed them with white flowered plants, observed all plants in the first generation, all purple or violet flowers. None of them were white. And that was the concept that we had studied. Now, let us start with the concept of the law of dominance. How are you supposed to now write the laws properly? There's a particular format of writing them. The first is you have to maintain on the left hand side certain generations and here the cross. This is how you have to always write. So parent plants, first of all, I will write down the genotype, tall and dwarf. What does this symbol cross means? Pollination, breeding actually. So this is when I write here the words. What is the other? Now that I write tall, what was the one word we had studied the other day? What is it? Name. Tallness. What is it also known as? What is the other genetic word that we use? The tallness or the color or the curly hair or the eye color, blue, etc. What do you call this generally as? Traits, but there's one more word, phenotype. Genetically, what do you term this as? This is all known as phenotype. Now, this is the phenotype that we write. Now, next one, we have to write on the genotype. How do we write on the genotype? Genotype, we should always write in letters or in numbers. So, now that we are just starting to understand this, we will use simple letters for this. Capital. Now that I write capital letter, what do you understand also? The moment I write capital letter, it should give you an impression that these are all dominant traits. Any trait which is dominant always to be represented using a capital letter, always. Dominant traits always represented by capital letter. And what capital letter we use here, just the contrast, lowercase we have to write here. That's the rule. The other day also I told you, can I write here this because D for dwarf? Can I use this? No, this I cannot use. Then what am I supposed to use here? I have to write this way. That's the rule. So here it is, the phenotype, the genotype. Next one. Next I have to understand what are the type of gametes. Gametes means what basic? Gametes means I am talking about, for example, now this is a tall plant. I understand this is a tall plant. What about the cells? I just tried to show you that how would be the chromosomes. There may be now 5 pairs of chromosomes. Maybe there are in this particular plant 5 pairs of chromosomes. In one of these chromosomes, the situation is something like this, a pair of allele. In one of the chromosome, there's a gene where alleles are exactly identical and it is a homozygous condition. Clear? Now that this cell undergoes the process of cell division, what will happen? The paired chromosomes will split. That is what's simple to understand. So for this chromosome also the same as like other 4 chromosomes. So I am understanding that as the cell divides, all these chromosomes will definitely get separated. All these chromosomes get definitely separated, but we are interested with this T only right now. So maybe here this is one, maybe here this is one we are talking about. Are you understanding what I'm writing here? So we are now not much bothered about the rest 4. We are only bothered about this particular chromosome containing T. We are only bothered about this particular chromosome containing T. So how many types of gametes? How many types of gametes? Whenever I ask you, what are you supposed to understand? Whenever there's a question, how many types of gametes means what? Straight away you have to understand. Is it a homozygous condition? If yes, the type of gametes are the same, right? Number is 2 or 4. We are not talking about the number. Here you are only to understand how many types of gametes. How many types of gametes? This gamete is also containing capital T, and this gamete is also containing capital T. So this pair of chromosome is split, no? Half of the gametes will have this capital T, half of the gametes will have this capital T. But when you analyze, they are actually the same. Yes or no? So when I ask you how many types of gametes from these type of plants, what is your answer? One type of gamete. I'm not asking you how many in number, 2 or 4. No. How many types? One type. And always remember, that's a rule. The moment I talk about a homozygous pair of chromosome, the type of gametes will always be 1. Because same, no? Alleles are same. But had this been a situation like this, say suppose, then what would you say? How many types of gametes? How many types of gametes? 2. Clear? Is that clear? So now we are going to start with this. I start with this. The basic cross goes like this. Parent plants with this type of a condition. Homozygous tall, homozygous dwarf. How many types of gametes? Only one type. So now how do we write? This is just for understanding. We should not write all these things. So how should we write now? What about the gametes now? What about the gametes? Gametes will be, this particular plant will give rise to one type of gamete. But let us write both the chromosomes getting split. Then what should I write here? Understood? Clear? Pair of chromosomes split. Here also pair of chromosomes split. Is that clear? Now we talk about F1 generation. In F1 generation, what are you supposed to show? In the first generation plant. This is one generation plant, produce gametes. Gametes will undergo the process of fertilization to give rise to another seed and then a new plant. So that is the concept that we are trying to express here. So this gamete fertilize. Gamete of one plant, gamete of another plant, fertilize. You already studied in reproduction that the male gamete, female gamete fertilize to give rise to the zygote and then the embryo, the seed, etc. So more or less the same concept here. Now we are not talking about the seed and the flower, etc. We are only talking in terms of a pair of chromosome. So this gamete and this gamete. This chromosome containing capital T and this chromosome containing small t now fuse. Then what will be the pair of chromosome to write? This chromosome will fuse and these two chromosomes fuse and come together. So can I write that in the zygote a pair of chromosomes something like this is formed? Can we write something like this will be formed? When this chromosome and this chromosome gets fused together, when the gamete containing this and the gamete containing this fuse together, will a pair of chromosomes something like this may be formed in the zygote? Possible, no? This is what is now happening. So what should we write? We are now only writing the genotype. So we are writing this. Did you understand why did we write this? Capital T, small t. Why? Because this is now the new pair of chromosome formed. Where? In the zygote. Why? Because this gamete and this gamete underwent the process of fertilization. This gamete with capital T, this gamete with small t, fertilization and result in the formation of a new pair of chromosome where one pair of or one gene has this pair of allele. Clear? So I may say now, maybe now this is the zygote, the nucleus of the zygote where there are another 5 pairs of chromosomes, and in one such pair, this is what is been formed now. Clear? We are talking about just one pair of alleles now. So similar like this, there may be so many other genes in the other pairs. We are not talking about that. We are only talking about this. Till here, is it okay? Understood? Now, this is what has happened. A pair of chromosome with homozygous allele for tallness, another pair of chromosome with homozygous allele for dwarfness. When they undergo the process of gamete formation, two types of gametes are formed. One type of gamete formed, one type of gamete formed. Now this gamete with capital T allele for tallness fuses or fertilizes with this gamete with small t, that is the allele for dwarfness. They come together and now result in the formation of what? A pair of chromosome where the alleles are in the homozygous condition, in the heterozygous condition. So now here I would have more appropriately written pure tall plants. Pure tall meaning homozygous tall. And then here what do I write then? Pure dwarf plants meaning homozygous dwarf. Then what should I write here? Here I will write hybrid tall plants meaning heterozygous tall plants. Clear? Now, excuse me. Now, talking about the phenotype. Now that I write capital T, small t, what does this mean? When I write capital T, small t, what does that mean? Heterozygous condition, no? And I'm saying it is hybrid tall, meaning which allele is expressing? Tallness. Which allele is not expressing? Dwarfness. Then what does this concept express? Whenever there is a pair of allele and in a heterozygous condition, it is only one allele which is expressing. Which is that allele expressing? The allele for tallness. So now the law says, whenever there's a situation like this, already I had explained to you earlier with human examples, no? That says, suppose if it is a situation something like this, allele for brownness expresses and not the blueness. So yes, that time also we had understood that this is the brown allele and which is the dominant allele. This is the blue allele and that is the recessive allele, correct? So now, what is the law stating here? The law states here that out of a pair of contrasting alleles, the allele that expresses is dominant and the allele that remains suppressed. If you remember, I told you the other day that when Mendel had tried this type of experiment a number of times, every time he saw only one allele is expressing. Violet and white, only violet. Round and wrinkled, only round. Inflated and constricted, only inflated. Tall and dwarf, only tall. And never he found any plant in the first generation which is expressing the other trait also. So he was more or less confirmed that there is something, some principle must be working here where only one factor is getting expressed. He had been naming these as factors at that time. So he said that it is something, some reason is there why only one factor is expressing. And what is it? What is this factor? This is known as the dominant allele. It is a dominant allele. Exactly how I wrote, you will have to write it down, and after that you will have to write down the law, and after that I'll give you one question also based on this, you should be able to answer. Complete exactly like this, essay lico. There should be a column like this to maintain step like this, and there should be space. Exactly this should come in the middle. Remember, whenever you are asked to explain with the help of an example, the law of dominance, there are stepwise marks, exactly how you have for problems in maths and physics, exactly like this. You miss out something, you'll half of marks gone. So you miss out to write down the phenotype, you miss out to write down the genotype, the presentation not clear, half mark, 1 mark will be gone. So exactly like this you will have to write. Come on, write it down all of you, and then we'll have to write down the statement of the law. The statement of the law has to be written. Right? Done?
Yes.
Done? Done? Finish up. Over? the head, law of dominance. Right on the head, this is the first law that we are studying. Law of dominance. There are 3 laws that we have to study along with proper examples and application. You should know how to apply the concept with any particular example given in your paper. Done? Now you write down the statement of the law. Statement of the law as it is comes for 1 mark, or 1 mark also otherwise, or else with a question, full 3 mark question. Law you write out of a pair of contrasting alleles. Out of a pair of contrasting alleles in the F1 hybrid, out of a pair of contrasting alleles in the F1 hybrid, comma, the allele that expresses is known as the dominant allele. The allele that expresses is known as the dominant allele, and the allele that remains suppressed, S-U-P-P-R-E-S-S-E-D, remains suppressed, is the recessive allele. The allele that remains suppressed is the recessive allele. Got that? Wrote all of you? Done? Okay, now take one question based on the concept of dominance. That's a question which has come in the boards also, and it is there in the volume also. When you try solving the questions, you will come across that. Explain with an example. Explain, this is an additional question, it's not a part of the answer, remember? Explain with an example. Traits are inherited. Traits are inherited but not expressed at times. Explain with an example. Traits are inherited but not expressed at times. This type of a question generally for 3 marks you get. What will you write? First of all, I will just give you an idea what you are supposed to write down. Frame your own answer, then I will ask you. I'll just give you 5 minutes to write down the answer. Let me just tell you what you are supposed to write. What are you supposed to write? The question says that traits are inherited but not expressed. Give a suitable example and explain. So what is happening here? Traits are inherited. Yes or no? Traits are inherited. But is this trait getting expressed? Inherited means what? Passed on to the next generation. I talk about even in human, this concept is there. This law is applicable even in human. I talk about the father who is brown-eyed, and I talk about the mother who is blue-eyed. What's happening? I talk about the offspring. In case of the offspring may generally have a genotype, something like this. What is the eye color of the offspring? Brown. The reason is this allele is inherited, but is it expressing? No, it is not expressing. Why is it not expressing? Because this allele is a recessive allele in contrast to the other brown or the allele for brownness. So this is what you'll have to write down. So what is the, yes?
Now what is the difference? Like some alleles are more dominant than like
What is the
difference that allows some alleles to express like in contrast?
Because when we are talking about the entire sequence of the DNA has got certain information to produce certain proteins. the entire DNA is actually making variety of proteins. Now, every single protein composition is different. Based on what the composition is, the expression, any type of a protein. Certain proteins are more powerful, they express. Certain proteins, when I say powerful, what does that mean? Powerful in the sense that these particular protein, are they able to overlap? Say suppose I talk about a particular flower. It has got two different type of pigments, but for us it appears that no, the flower is something red in color, but maybe there is a red pigment also and the white pigment, or the pink pigment also, but we get to see it as red because the pink pigment which is produced is in such less amount that the red pigment is overlapping it, covering it. So even in case of plants also, other than this tallness and dwarfness, there are so many other examples. Here, at this moment, to make it very simple, I can only tell you that there are variety of proteins. Certain proteins relate to formation of their products. The proteins are formed in a smaller proportion. Certain proteins are formed in a bigger proportion, larger proportion. So the ones which are more powerful, genes which are more powerful will produce a larger amount of the protein, the pigment, etc. And that will generally get expressed. That function, that protein will always get expressed. Now the question that I gave you is certain traits are inherited but not expressed. Give reason, explain. So the first part of your answer, what are you going to write? Certain traits are passed on from one generation to the other, from the parents to the offsprings. But they are not expressed because they are recessive and less powerful as compared to the contrasting allele. So that's the first part that you'll have to write. And then I will give you only the introduction, the example. Will you be able to choose anything apart from this example to explain your answer? Which example should you choose? No, with the P now. With the help of the P only you'll have to write. This is only one pair. You can choose any example, round wrinkle. You can choose example, inflated, constricted. You already know now some. The color of the flower, the violet, white, you can choose. So any of these. Yes?
Axial flower.
Axial and terminal. So any of these 7 pairs of characters you can take and write. Let me just give you only the introduction, what you should write. Certain traits that pass on from parental glands, you write. We are talking about the P. Pass on from the parental glands to the F1 generation plants. F1 generation plants, but are not expressed. Because they are recessive. In contrast, they are recessive in contrast to the other allele for the gene. In contrast to the other allele for the gene. You are talking about only one gene here, 2 alleles, one expressing, the other not expressing. Full stop. Such alleles are known as recessive alleles. Such alleles are known as recessive alleles. Next part, how should you write? For example, when Now you write your own example. I want each one of you to write your own example. For example, when one pea plant with round seed is crossed with a pea plant with wrinkled seeds, all the plants in the F1 generation are with round seeds. This is because the wrinkle trait is recessive and hence it is not able to express, etc. So that way you write down. Now write down on your own. Choose any of the characters, any of the pairs and write. When pea plants with such and such trait is crossed with such and such trait, what is the expression in the F1 you'll have to write. And then last one more line comment. Why such expression? Because the question is traits are inherited but not expressed. That is the question. You have to satisfy. When pea plants with such and such trait are crossed with dash trait. I'm just giving an example. The format how to write, you fill in. Pea plant with dash trait crossed with dash trait. All F1 plants have dash trait. First you write that example. Then the next part should be, this is because the trait dash is recessive and though it is inherited, it's not able to express. These things you'll have to understand. Once you understand, it's very, very easy. Understood? You wrote? What was the last line you wrote? बोलो ना, not a problem, बोलो. सुनेंगे तो क्या हो गया? Not a problem. Don't hesitate, Shubham. Be very smart. वो लोग सुनेंगे तो उनका प्रॉब्लम है. You are here to study. तुम अपना काम करो, निकल जाओ. खत्म. कौन क्या बोल रहा है, क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है? पढ़ो. पढ़ो. Shubham, be very smart. You are such a good boy. करो. पढ़ो. I'll correct it. Huh? Cross. What did you write? Concentrate. Seed color. What is the seed color you have selected? Yellow and green. And then, so यहाँ पे अभी phenotype लिखो. And you'll have to express in words. Words में लिखना पड़ेगा. You'll have to write in words. History है ये. Science में इतना कौन लिखता है? You have to give that cross. एक cross लिखो. Write one cross and then 3 lines of description. That much only. Write down the genotype, phenotype. Take one example. What example you all are taking? Yellow है, green है. Something more you can take. Round, wrinkled. Other day I told you, no? If I take round, what should I write here? Capital R, capital R. Wrinkled, small r. Try with an example. You'll have to make one small cross. For genetics, everywhere the crosses are very much necessary. So I gave you the introduction. Uske baad ek example try to fit in and then a small cross. That's it. 3 marks. Done? Last line done. What example you wrote? Read out. When a pea plant with?
When a pea plant with yellow seeds is crossed with pea plant with green seeds, all the F1 plants will have yellow seeds. This is because the trait is recessive and though it's inherited, it's not expressed.
Yes. And then now make exactly like this the cross and show. Yellow, capital Y, capital Y, capital Y, right here. Green, small y, small y. Push away. Now, hybrid F1 will be what? Capital Y, small y, and then you write down the phenotype. That's it. That's what example you wrote?
Inflated pots and
Constricted. So inflated लिखेंगे तो what will be right here?
capital I.
Capital I. Inflated it will be like this. Constricted small I. F1 क्या आएगा?
Capital
This one. What will be the phenotype?
Hybrid.
Hybrid inflated. So very much you are showing that this is not expressing. Alleles are inherited but not getting expressed. Is that clear? All done?
Yes.
So this was the concept of dominance. Now we move on to the next concept, that is the law of segregation. What is the second law? The second law is known as the law of segregation. The law of segregation, or it is also known as the law of purity of gametes. It is also known as the law of purity of gametes. Law of purity of gametes. Likho. Now next we are talking about the second law. Law of segregation or the law of purity of gametes. For the law of purity of gametes, it is the same thing that we'll have to do till here. First generation tak exactly everything is the same. First generation exactly everything is same. The same thing you will write till here now again, all of it. The first parent plants, gametes, F1 generation, genotype, phenotype exactly. Now try writing it down. Again remember, explain law of segregation, right? Start from the parent plants, we have to do it again. यहाँ तक exactly same. Now इसके आगे और extension है. So till here you write on your own. Try writing on your own. You're already done 2 crosses now. For Mendel's typical laws, you have to explain with this example. When application questions are there, that can be with any example. Done till here, all of you? We are going to study now the law of segregation. That's the second law. Now, the second law states, now what was the confusion? The confusion was, in the first law, again I start like this. The confusion for Mendel was that every time whenever he crosses 2 plants, tall, dwarf, round, wrinkled, he gets to see that in the first generation it is only one trait resembling one parent only. The phenotype resembles only one parent. So if it is a tall and dwarf, all plants are tall. The dwarfness is not seen in any of the plants in the first generation. If it is round and wrinkled, all plants are round. The wrinkledness is not shown in any of the plants. So that was his confusion at that time, and he was every time asking himself that what is happening to this dwarf allele? What is happening to the wrinkled allele? What is happening to the constricted allele? Why are they not getting expressed? And that was the reason he had done this process a number of times, and the results more or less the same every time. Then he thought of crossing the F1 plants again. Crossing the F1 plants again. So he thought of breeding the F1 plants themselves. So when he did so, in the F2 generation, definitely he got such type of plants. Now let us see how does it work. So this is another hybrid tall plant. So what did he do? He had now selected two plants of the F1 generation and tried breeding them to see what now in the second generation. So what were the gametes? Now you tell me, how many type of gametes this plant should have given? How many types of gametes this plant would have? Two types. Already the concept I explained you. So how many? Now this is a homozygous or a heterozygous condition? Heterozygous matlab it's a pair of chromosome where the alleles are like this. And if it is cell division, the pair of chromosomes splits. And how many types? There will be one type of a gamete this way and there will be one type of a gamete this way. Yes or no? So exactly that only to write. So here we are talking about how many types of gametes from a heterozygous plant. From this, two types. This is one and this is one. From here, how many types? This is one. This is one. Is this understood? Is this understood? From this type of a plant, how many types of gametes? Two types. From this type of a plant, how many types of gametes? Two types. Are these two types of plants the same? Yes, these are all F1 plants, no? Is the genotype of this and this the same? Phenotype of this and this the same? Yes, because these are all same generation plants. These are all F1 plants. So definitely they will be the same. Genotypically, phenotypically, they are exactly the same. Now this is the F1 generation gametes. Now we want to see what about the F2 generation, the next generation. What are the next generation? Now the next generation plants, how will we get the next generation plants? Definitely the process of fertilization of the gametes. So which are the gametes? Now just for your understanding, no confusion at all. Once this is understood, independent assortment becomes very easy. I am numbering them as 1 and 2 to understand that these two are the gametes of one plant. I number them 3 and 4 to understand 3 and 4 are the gametes of the other plant. So can I say that 1 and 2 can they undergo the process of fertilization? 1 and 2 can they undergo the process of fertilization this time? Why not? No, that is not my question. My question is, these two are the gametes of the same parent, one parent. Can they undergo the process of fertilization? We had studied the process of human fertilization also, no? Did we ever study two sperm fertilizing? Two ovum fertilizing? So same is the concept when we are talking about gametes of one parent. Can they ever fertilize? No. Fertilization will be one male gamete, one female gamete, or gametes of two different parents, always. So this confusion you should not have. Students always end up doing this together, iske saath hi iska fertilization. No, that's absolutely wrong. So now this is gamete, two gametes of one parent, two gametes of one other parent, but actually they are same. But I just write in two colors to make it very clear. Now the process of fertilization, how are we supposed to show? Two methods you are supposed to know. One is the simple crisscross method and the other is the Punnett square, the box method. Okay. So first of all, we'll go for the crisscross method. 1 and 3, if they fertilize, then what is the probability of the pair of chromosome to be formed? Capital T and capital T, correct? When I write these two letters, what are you understanding? We are talking about two chromosomes coming together forming a pair. Yes or no? This is one chromosome, this is another chromosome coming together forming a pair. Are you understanding that? So, but we don't draw the chromosomes every time. We will only write down the letters. We will not draw chromosomes here. Next, I want to write for 1 and 4. Tell me, what should I write? What should I write? Parin, what should I write? 1 and 4, if they undergo the process of fertilization, what should I write? What will be the pair of chromosome come together? What will it be? Capital T and small t. Next, 2 and 3 come together. What will I write?
Small t, small t.
Basic small t, 2 and 3 I said.
2 and 3. Small t and capital T and small t.
Capital T and small t. We will not write small first. Dominant हमेशा पहले लिखना है. And then last is 2 and 4. Small t, small t. Can I write fertilization between 3 and 4? Why not? Gametes of the same parent. One same plant. So definitely not more fertilization. Now tell me, what should the phenotypes be? What should the phenotype be? Tall, okay, pure tall or homozygous tall. What should the phenotype be? Hybrid tall, right? This is hybrid tall. And what about this one? I will write, okay, pure dwarf. Now look into this condition. Now here we are talking about 4 plants. Don't be busy writing. Just try understanding first. Don't be busy copying down. Understand. Now I want to understand that out of these 4 plants, so right now how many plants we are writing? 4 we are writing. Out of these 4 plants, how many of them are tall? Phenotypic ratio. Phenotypic means what? What was the meaning of the word phenotype? Something that you can see. The color of the eye is brown or black, you can see. But what the genotype inside, can you see? No, that we cannot see. So something that we can see is phenotype. Now it is asked that you have to know the phenotypic ratio, meaning out of 4, what are the 2 different colors? I'm sorry, the height out of these 4 plants. How can we divide, differentiate them? The ones which are tall, the ones which are dwarf. So how many are tall? 3 are tall, because whether they are homozygous or heterozygous, that we cannot see, no. We can only see whether they are tall or they are dwarf, only that much. So what is the phenotypic ratio? Phenotypic ratio is 3:1. And what about now the genotype? Look into the genotype now. How many types of genotype there? How many types of genotype? 1. Then this is another one. And this is another one. So how many types of genotype? How many types of genotype? 3 types. Homozygous, dominant. What will we term this as? Heterozygous. And what will you term this as? Recessive. This is homozygous, recessive. This is recessive, Ali. Homozygous, dominant. Heterozygous, homozygous, recessive. Now I want to write down now the next is genotypic ratio. I want to write down the genotypic ratio. So what should I write? I will write 1 homozygous dominant, 2 heterozygous, and 1 homozygous recessive. Yes, is this the one? 1 homozygous. Out of 4 we are always writing. 1 homozygous dominant, 2 heterozygous, 1 homozygous recessive. So that's the reason we always write down the genotypic ratio as 1:2:3. This is only for understanding. You may write this way also, or straight away the shorter form 1:2:1. Is this understood? Is this understood? This is one way of representing, but this work, again, we can go for another alternative method. Only this part. Till the gametes is the same. There's no other way of expressing. But now, finding out the F2 generation, yes, we can think of another method. What is the other method? This is known as the Punnett square method. This is known as the Punnett square method. Now, in the Punnett square method, we are actually considering one plant as male, the other plant as female, and writing down the gametes. Which are the 2 gametes? Both the plants producing the same type of gametes, because both of their genotypes are the same. So, what are the gametes to write here? This is one, this is another. Yes, correct? The gametes. This is one, this is another. What about the other 2 gametes here? I have to write down the other 3 and 4 also. So I'm writing down 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. This is only for understanding. So what to write in the first box? Fertilization of, what did we do here? 1 and 3. So now you fill up the box. If 1 and 3 has to fertilize, then what? If 1 and 4 has to fertilize, then what? Can I show fertilization of 1 and 2? Can I show fertilization of 3 and 4? No. One plant, another plant. So it has to go this way. It has to go this way. So first I will take 1 and 3 right here. 1 and 4 right here. 2 and 3 right here. 2 and 4 right here. So I'm just giving you, you have to fill up the box. It is 1 and 3 right here. And 1 and 4 right here. 2 and 3 right here. 2 and 4 right here. Make this box and write down. Neat, nice. First you will write down the genotype and then the phenotype. Now this boxes in your ruled notebooks, this should be 3 lines. This should be 3 lines. The box should be big enough. 3 lines. 1, 2, 3 lines hona chahiye. Where one line you will write down the genotype and then there should be space to write down the phenotype also. Okay, make this Punnett square first. Neat, clear. Why are you late?
I don't go in class.
Why are you smiling? Which chapter you all are studying now? और अभी तक start करना बाकी है. Did you all study? Science started. Are you revising? This week, next week.
This Friday we have assignment question. Science. It's on characteristics. Maths, English.
Understanding? Make it fast. If this is clear, independent assortment will be very clear.
Why is it called Punnett square?
After the name of the biologist, Punnett. ये सिंपल सा बॉक्स है. हाँ करो. Okay. Now, don't make it so small and try fitting in everything with those microscopic writings. Make it neat, clear, right? The genotype, phenotype, everything should be very clearly expressed there. Very good. Makes yours. Done. Last two. Show. This side. Fit in. यहाँ पे क्या लिखना है? चलो कंप्लीट कर. हाँ? Pure tall homozygous नहीं लिखना है. Pure tall. Hybrid tall ये नहीं लिखना है. This is only for explanation I'm telling you. Hybrid heterozygous नहीं लिखना है. Homozygous you cut this ones. Make it fast. Now that you have written down the genotype, after that you will write down the phenotype. So now keep telling me. 1 and 3, what should I write here? 1 and 3, what should I write here? And then the phenotype. 1 and 4 and phenotype. 2 and 3 hybrid tall. 2 and 4 pure dwarf. Now check the phenotypic and the genotypic ratios. Is it the same or it is different? It is the same. Check. Phenotypic and genotypic ratios, are they the same or there's a difference?
We are tall, and we see genotypic, and then we have one pure tall, 2 hybrid, and 1 pure.
So what is the genotypic ratio of a monohybrid cross? Just one more question also it is asked. What is the phenotypic ratio of a monohybrid cross? 3:1. What is the genotypic ratio of a monohybrid cross? 1:2:1. Explain with the help of an example. So that way. Now why the word mono?
We have to know this when they ask to explain with an example.
In your exam, sometimes they will ask you with the help of a Punnett square. Then with the help of a Punnett square, definitely you'll have to do. If it is not mentioned by which method, that's why we always have to go by both the method. If it is not mentioned in the question, I'll give you 1 or 2 questions to do. If it is not mentioned in the question that with the help of cross method or Punnett square, then any of the method that you can, you feel like doing. But preferably go for the Punnett square method. Preferably go for the Punnett square method because it is a clear way of representation. This way, when children do, they make it very clumsy. If you are very good at representation, then go for it. But otherwise, I would always suggest go for this method and neat, nice, make your presentation. Now, this is one type of a, take one question very fast, see that you are able to apply this concept without doing the cross. Try answering the question now. Without doing the cross. Quite a number. Break है क्या भी?
मैंने डोर बजा के फेल हो खराब हो गई इसके लिए
अच्छा कोई बात नहीं, the 10th के बच्चे हैं, not a problem. So now, when we are, I'll just give you the question. Without, she's laughing away. Nice, no? Now, let my wish also get fulfilled. No, sometimes I want to teach 10th standard full 2 hours. फटाफट खत्म हो जाता है पोर्शन. पर क्या हो गया? ठीक है ना? लास्ट तो हो गया. All more or less all subjects are done, no? आज दक्ष का थोड़ा बैटरी कम है, चार्ज not charged properly. हाँ? Somebody is absent. हाँ, उसका partner नहीं आया आज. That's why. Yeah, no? I'll give you one question without making the cross. See that you are able to answer the question. Number 1. In a cross between P plants, in a cross between P plants with, in a cross between P plants having round seeds with P plants having wrinkled seeds. P plants having wrinkled seeds. Hundred plants were obtained in the F1 generation. 100 plants were obtained in the F1 generation. Obtained in the F1 generation. F1 plants, continue. F1 plants were self-pollinated. F1 plants were self-pollinated. 2. Obtain F2 generation plants. Obtain F2 generation plants. Full stop. Now you write sub-question A. Sub-question A. Which trait is dominant? Which trait is dominant? Question mark. Give reason. Which trait is dominant? Give reason. Leave 2 lines for the answer. Write number 2. Number B. Leave 2 lines for the answer. Number B. Number B. How many plants in the F2 generation? How many plants in the F2 generation have parental phenotypes? How many plants in the F2 generation? You have to always take out of 4 only. Huh? How many plants in the F2 generation have parental phenotypes? Keep 1 line for the answer. Number C. Number C. how many, what proportion of plants? What proportion of plants? What proportion of plants would be recombinants? What proportion of plants would be recombinants? Recombinants means what? New combinations. Okay, new combinations. One line for the answer. Question number D. What is the genotypic ratio? What is the genotypic ratio obtained in such crosses? What is the genotypic ratio obtained in such crosses? One line for the answer. And the last number E, 5 marks, 5 questions. E. Write one more example. Write one more example of a character of pea plants. Write one more example of a character of pea plants and its traits. And its traits. Okay. Now I gave you one number there. I gave you 100 as a number. Now this 100 is a number. Now you know the ratio is what? 1:2:1 and what? Roughly the proportion should be. So accordingly you will have to answer this question. I'll give you a break. Let's try answer this question and then I'll give you a break 5 minutes. Come on. Complete this question.
Recombinants are we referring to new genetic types? This
हाँ,
which are different from
I just told you recombinants मतलब ये वाले.
okay, the ones which are
New combinations. Okay, see the first question now. In this type of a question, even for independent assortment, you will get a big question, 5 marks. But actually, nowhere in this question it is marked. It is mentioned that with the help of a cross or show with the help of a Punnett space. It mentioned there in the question. That means for doing the cross, there is no mark. 1 1 1 1 answer likhna hai and 1 1 mark. So for doing the cross, but if you are not very thorough, you will have to do the cross and be very sure about the answer, then you write. But once you are doing this process twice, thrice, by looking into the format, you know what the answers are. Let us try one. What is the first question? Which trait is dominant out of round and wrinkled I gave you?
Yes.
Which trait is dominant? Which one? Round. Reason, what will you write? Because
This is best in
Next, what is the reason you will write? Very, very clear you have to write a reason. Round is dominant. The round trait is dominant because all plants in the F1 generation are round. You already learned the law of dominance. All plants in the F1 generation were round. So from there we understood that the roundness is dominant. Write this answer. All plants in the F1 generation are round, hence round. The trait roundness is dominant over wrinkledness. Then go to the next question.
how many plants in the F2 generation have
How many plants in the F2 generation have parental phenotypes? I gave you a number 100. So out of 100, roughly you have to write. Out of 100, now see, if I consider this as 100, how many plants have parental phenotypes? Almost out of 100, 75 plants are parental phenotypes, no? Last time I told you 25%, 50% and 25%. 25, 50, 25. That is roughly we do. So now the number 100 given. And it will be a easy number given. Not any calculation. Don't expect anything that way. Not tough at all. So if it is 100 given, then what are we supposed to write? How many plants are parental phenotypes? Approximately 75 plants out of 100 are parental phenotypes. This is all at all. Homozygous है, heterozygous है, उससे कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ा. They all are tall. Approximately 75 plants are tall. Approximately 75 plants are with parental. No, I'm sorry. What I told you, parental phenotypes. I told you. No, see, nobody is asking me also that question. Parental phenotype is this one. No, tall and dwarf. So what will it be? I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's not 75. 50.
But F2 generation, the parent plants are hybrids, right?
No, parent will take this. Parent plants. The starting generation we take as parent. Yes. These are F1 plants.
They will never be referred as.
They will never be considered as parent. Please make this correction. What I told you, how many plants in the F2 generation will have parental phenotypes? Parent phenotypes, जिसको parental phenotypes बोलेंगे, tallness and pure dwarfness. Okay. Go to the next one.
What proportion of plants would be recombinant?
How many plants in the F2 generation has parental?
No, this is what proportion of plants.
No, what I gave you the second question. What I gave you?
How many plants?
No, second question. Just read one.
How many plants in the generation have parental
How many plants in the F2 generation has parental phenotypes? Just correct that. That also will be a bit ambiguous a question. उस phenotypes काट के genotype लिखो, not phenotype. Generally in the parental phenotype we will you'll have a confusion, right? Parental genotype. So now that is 50%. Okay, come to the next question now.
What proportions of plants?
Parental genotype, that is clear, 50%. Okay. Now come to the next one. Now come to the third question. Clear, no? That is clear?
All of them have parental phenotype.
All of them have parental phenotypes.
Either tall or dwarf.
That's why I changed that question. Parental phenotype agar hai, so all comes. So that here it is not applicable. This is applicable for independent assortment. In this law, this question is not general. You may not get this type of a question for this law.
How did it get?
I'll tell you. For this law, write down parental genotypes. This you generally get. So parental genotypes are this and this 25, 25, 50%. Come to third question. What is the third?
What proportion of plants would be recombinant?
What proportion of plants would be recombinants? Recombinants are hybrid tall. Again, 50%. Hybrid tall will be the F2. Recombinants will be F2 because F1 is only this one. F1 is only one type of a plant. Here there is no segregation. Here it is, we are talking about two types. 50%. Now the last one. Approximately 50. Proportion, no? So approximately 50 because out of 100 I gave you. So approximately 50. We will write approximately because it's not a specific number. Okay, that is number 3. Go to number 4.
What is the genotypic ratio?
What is the genotypic ratio? Genotypic ratio, you know now what to write. 1:2, 2:1. And one more example to write. What will you write? Out of the 7 pairs, any one more character and its 2 traits to write down. That you write down on your own. Any one character and the 2 traits. Now let us complete with the statement of the law of segregation. Let us complete with this. The statement of the law. We'll have to complete here. The concept of segregation understood? After the explanation, you'll always have to remember how to frame the law of segregation. What is the law of segregation stating? Write down the law, the statement of the law, right? The two contrasting alleles or traits in the F1 generation plants do not blend or mix. Do not blend, B-L-E-N-D, I'll tell you what is the meaning. Do not blend or mix and separate or segregate during gamete formation. separate or segregate during gamete formation. So this is the statement of segregation, the law of segregation. Earlier I gave you one application question. Now see here, what is the statement? The statement means these are the two alleles in a pair of chromosomes. But these two alleles, they are distinct in the pair of chromosomes. You have written that they do not blend or mix. Yes, they are not blending or mixing. They are not forming any new combination. Don't sleep. They are not forming any new combination. If they are forming any new combination, then coming together of this allele and forming this type of plants would not have been possible. The law states, how do we get this type of a plant? Only because these two alleles remain in the pair of chromosome as it is without combining to form anything new. If they combine to form anything new, then in the F2 we would have got something different type of plants altogether. Of course we got, but apart from that we got the parental types also, the pure tall, pure dwarf. We got the parental types also. So that is the concept of segregation, that they separate and segregate during gamete formation. The two contrasting alleles, they don't mix, they don't come together to form any new combination, but when it is the time of cell division, they will just segregate and separate. Segregate, separate, form distinct gametes, and when the gametes fertilize, we have got this type of a plant, the homozygous recessive ones, which we did not get in the F1 generation. These two laws are very simple. Why are we talking about these laws as monohybrid? Take a note of this word. This type of laws are known as, or this type of process, monohybrid, meaning when you study inheritance of only one character. We are studying the shape or the height or the color, only one character we are studying. In the next concept, independent assortment, we are going to study two characters at the same time. Okay? Take a break, 10 minutes sharp, please come back so that we can study the next law.
Wow. कितने के काटे? अबे 23 कितने के काटे? 400 रुपए वीडियो क्या है? कितने के काटे?
It's so spontaneous stuff. वो पायलट का लग रहा है रे सही पायलट का सेक्सी इसका लाइन लाइन इसका सेकंड लाइन तो ज्यादा अच्छा लगा तो पायलट मैंने भी लाइन सुन रही है हां मैं सच्ची में अच्छी देख रही हूं कि पता नहीं क्या बोल रहा है मुझे कब देखी है रीडिंग में अच्छे तो ये बनाती लगा अच्छा लग रहा है अलग है ठीक है
Fine.